You know that feeling, right? You build a machine learning model, it works perfectly on your laptop, and then what? That huge gap between a cool model and a real-world product is where so many AI projects just die. So today, we're diving into the MLOps mindset. It's the key to bridging that gap for good.
Okay, let's get right into it. You've done the hard work. Your model is a smashing success on your machine. But that's when the big question hits you. Now what? How do you actually get this thing out of your nice, safe development environment and into a system that has to deal with real users, messy data, and all the chaos of the real world? That's the real challenge we're going to tackle. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to define the problem. We call it the model-to-product gap. Then we'll introduce MLOps as the solution and talk about a pretty counterintuitive but really powerful way to think about the whole process. We'll also get into the massive shift to a data-centric view and wrap it all up with what we're calling the MLOps mandate. Let's do it.
All right, first things first, let's put a name to this problem. It's the model-to-product gap, and honestly, it is probably the single biggest hurdle in applied machine learning today.
And here's the core distinction you've got to understand. Training a model? Look, a lot of talented engineers can do that. It's just the beginning. But successfully deploying that model into a tough, scalable, and reliable system that real people can depend on, that is a rare and incredibly valuable skill. It's not just the next step, it's the ultimate goal. It's the whole point.
So how in the world do we bridge this massive gap between a clever model and a product that actually works? Well, we need a discipline, a set of principles designed for production AI, and that is exactly where MLOps comes into the picture. So what is MLOps? You can think of it less as a single tool and more like an entire engineering discipline. It's this combination of principles, best practices, and a bunch of tools that gives you a structured process for the entire project lifecycle. It guides you all the way from that initial what-if idea to a real-world system that makes a measurable impact.
Okay, now this is where things get really, really interesting. To truly get the MLOps mindset, it actually helps to kind of throw out the conventional way of thinking and learn the whole process completely backward.
So we normally think of a project flowing in this very logical step-by-step order. You scope it, you get your data, you train a model, and then at the very end, you try to deploy it. Simple, right? Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Makes sense. But to build these things effectively, we need to learn this process in reverse. This is the MLOps philosophy in a nutshell. You start with the end goal, deployment. What does the final system actually need to do? What are its limitations? Once you know that, then you can design a model that's going to fit into that system. And that tells you exactly what kind of data you need to go get and engineer. It is such a game changer because you're building with the destination in mind from the very first day.
Now, this reverse-engineered approach leads us right to another core principle of MLOps, shifting your main focus away from endlessly tweaking your model's code to systematically, carefully improving your data.
And the crucial point here is moving from just random experimentation to actual engineering. It's about getting out of that endless cycle of just, hacking around in a Jupyter notebook, kind of hoping for a lucky breakthrough. Instead, you build a repeatable, systematic process to improve your data. Because, let's be honest, better data almost always leads to better models.
This brings us to what we call the data-centric view of AI. The old way, the model-centric way, basically treated the data as fixed and just kept asking, how can I change my code to get better performance? But the data-centric view, it flips that completely on its head. You keep the code relatively stable, and instead you ask the much more powerful question, how can I systematically improve my data to get the performance I need? It's a huge change in perspective.
So, by working our way backward through this whole process, we finally arrived at the true first step of any successful project, scoping. Before you ever write a single line of code, before you even look at a data set, you have to answer the most important questions. What is the specific business problem we are trying to solve here? What does success actually look like, and how are we going to measure it? See, proper scoping is what separates those interesting science projects from high-impact products. It makes sure you're aiming all this incredible technical firepower at problems that are actually worth solving.
Okay, so let's pull all of these different threads together. After everything we've talked about, what's the core mandate of MLOps? What's the bottom line here?
Here's what it all boils down to. First, successful AI demands structure, not just a series of one-off experiments. Second, MLOps is the glue that connects your model, your data, and your production system into one cohesive thing. It's what transforms slow, manual work into fast, efficient, tool-supported workflows. And finally, for any modern AI engineer, mastering this discipline,
It's not a nice to have. It's absolutely non-negotiable.
So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. The next time you start an AI project, ask yourself this one question right from the beginning. Are you building something that just works in the lab, or are you building something that's truly ready for the world? Because adopting the MLOps mindset, that's what makes all the difference.